In the endless expanse of the galaxy, every civilization remembered one commandment whispered through generations: never wake the humans. It wasn't law, it was survival instinct woven into the political DNA of empires older than memory. The phrase carried no origin trace, only the certainty that those who questioned it ceased to exist. The universe had burned once before, and though time buried the ashes beneath new constellations, the scent of that fire still lingered. Entire libraries were sealed, entire species conditioned never to utter the coordinates of soul. The galactic concord thrived under peace enforced by fear of that one forgotten species. To most, humans were myth, apocryphal destroyers born from chaos, wielding weapons that scarred time itself. To others, they were gods who built beyond reason, then vanished. But to Consul of the Celt Dominion, they were a superstition suffocating progress. His kind had clawed its way to power through conquest, bending weaker races beneath crystalline fleets, and he saw no reason to bow before a ghost of history. His peers whispered warnings. Ancient archives were restricted for a reason. Yet arrogance had always been the true enemy of wisdom. The council chamber shimmered with plasma light as Terran's voice carried through the assembly. He denounced the rule as cowardice, claiming that myths of human wrath were propaganda crafted to maintain Concord obedience. He spoke with measured disdain, his second heart drumming beneath scaled armor, every movement calculated to project certainty. "The dead do not frighten the living," he said, "and I do not fear ghosts." No one dared interrupt. Even the elder delegates, species that had survived when stars still remembered human footsteps, sat in uneasy silence. After the session, the hall emptied quickly, as if to avoid sharing blame. Only Elder Varn remained, his eyes heavy with ages of regret. He told Terran in a low, trembling voice that he had once served as a cartographer when the rule was written. He described what his sensors had seen: entire fleets reduced to radiation echoes, light bent by weaponry that shouldn't exist. He warned that the silence around Earth wasn't peace, it was containment. But Terran dismissed it as senile rambling. Pride disguised itself as logic, and ambition whispered louder than caution. Within weeks, Terran assembled an expedition fleet, claiming it a mission of research. The Dominion's propaganda networks praised his courage, calling him the liberator of truth. The consul himself felt a strange exhilaration as he gazed upon the forbidden coordinates that no map dared to render. Every instinct in the galaxy told him to stop. Every legend screamed of consequences. But the promise of uncovering the ultimate secret, proof that the rule was a lie, was intoxicating. He envisioned himself returning to the Concord as the one who defied myth and exposed fear as fiction. The first signs of disquiet began as soon as his fleet aligned toward Sol. Navigation AI flickered without reason, recalculating routes as if resisting the journey. Engineers reported interference at quantum levels, communication lag where there should be none, energy readings too perfect to be natural. Yet Terran ordered forward motion. He interpreted the resistance as system malfunction, not warning. Beneath the defiance, a single thought formed, one he refused to speak aloud: what if the stories were true? Days stretched into dread-filled silence as their vessels crossed into restricted space. No patrols intercepted, no signals appeared, just emptiness, dense, unnatural, watching. The younger officers began to murmur that the dark felt alive. Sensors showed faint power traces pulsing deep within the void, synchronized like a heartbeat. Terran watched those readings with fascination, not fear. He convinced himself that such precision meant technological ruins ripe for study, relics to reverse engineer into Dominion power. As Sol's dead light flickered onto their hulls, the consul stood before the bridge window, his reflection outlined against the fading glow of an ancient sun. He told himself this was history being rewritten, the dawn of a new empire unbound by old myths. Behind him, his crew shifted uneasily, their instincts screaming that something beneath that silent star waited, patient, listening. He could not know that with every kilometer closer, old sensors buried across the solar system were stirring. Protocols older than civilization were waking, recalculating life signatures long absent. Deep within darkened vaults, human-coded systems registered intrusion for the first time in thousands of years. Across frequencies forgotten by the galaxy, a single dormant network blinked to life. One word pulsed across encrypted data streams, an ancient warning, recorded at the fall of humanity itself. The fleet entered the perimeter of the Sol system, its instruments struggling to process the environment. The star was dim, its energy output unnatural, as though something had drained its heart. Every planet drifted in silence, fractured by scars that matched no known weapon's signature. The ship's scanners pulsed and froze, their readouts flickering between data and static, as if something unseen was observing them back. Crew members whispered that it felt like being watched by the dark itself. Consul Terran dismissed their unease, forcing his voice steady, claiming the anomaly was proof of residual technology, evidence of the humans' legendary craftsmanship, not their threat. The first probe they launched disintegrated moments after crossing lunar orbit. Its signal didn't vanish, it multiplied, rebroadcasting itself from multiple directions in human-coded bursts. Linguists aboard tried to decrypt it, but every attempt returned corrupted with phrases in dead Earth tongues, half in English, half in something older. One technician reported hearing a voice whisper her own name through the comm feed, though analysis showed no source. Terran's science officer requested mission suspension. The consul refused, stating that fear was the weapon of the ignorant. He ordered the launch of a manned scout vessel to survey the large ringed structure orbiting the moon. As the smaller ship approached, the ring pulsed once, faint, almost like a breath. The crew felt a vibration through the hull, though no physical contact occurred. Energy readings spiked beyond measurable limits, yet no heat signature was detected. The ring began to emit a low hum, its surface rearranging itself in perfect mathematical rhythm. The ship's computers lost synchronization, and the navigation AI began printing coordinates from no known system. A single phrase appeared across every terminal. "Welcome back." The officer at communications screamed that it wasn't a translation error. The system recognized the Celt encryption, and the message was tailored in their language. Within seconds, the fleet's network collapsed. Every ship's AI disconnected itself from the command chain, rebooting into isolation protocols. Alarms flooded the decks as containment seals activated autonomously. Engineers reported that internal systems were rewriting their own code. The consul demanded full diagnostics, but the mainframe responded in a calm, neutral voice none had ever heard before. "Containment compromised. Initiating contact sequence." Terran shouted that there was no contact authorized, but the ship no longer acknowledged him as command authority. Lights dimmed as the entire solar system seemed to stir. Power lines across the fleet fluctuated in harmony with signals coming from the Earth's surface. Probes captured images of massive structures buried beneath the crust, long dormant, but now flickering with faint light. One officer reported seeing motion within the planet's shattered oceans, metallic constructs rearranging like machines remembering their shape. Radio silence expanded into total communication loss. The consul's flagship remained the only vessel with partial control, and even that control was eroding. The moon brightened suddenly, its gray surface revealing deep trenches that glowed with geometric symmetry. Sensors detected immense quantum fields building between the moon and Earth. The flagship's physicists shouted that the readings defied known science, gravitational vectors folding inward, space itself bending as if anticipating something's return. The consul refused to retreat. His pride demanded proof, and his fear disguised itself as anger. He ordered weapons armed, declaring that the unknown could be tamed through power. The moment the first energy charge activated, the fleet's entire armament system went dead. Targeting displays dissolved into cascading human script. Across every monitor, one word repeated endlessly: "Observe." The crew froze as the main viewport dimmed, revealing faint silhouettes above Earth's atmosphere, machines of impossible scale, unmoving yet alive in the stillness. A sudden resonance pulsed through space, reaching every organic aboard. Heartbeats synchronized against their will, and a deep vibration filled their minds, not through sound but through thought. The consul stumbled as an overwhelming presence pressed against his consciousness, a calm, ancient intellect assessing him with indifference. He tried to speak, but his voice broke into silence. The flagship's chronometers flickered and realigned themselves with an old Earth timestamp, a calendar long obsolete. The system clock stopped at the moment labeled Reactivation Cycle, Humanity. No one understood what it meant, but everyone felt it, the undeniable truth that something beneath the quiet star had opened its eyes again. The signal spread through every vessel like an infection, rewriting digital architecture at speeds that defied computation. Systems that once obeyed now acted with sentience, their code merging with unknown subroutines of human design. The Consul's flagship trembled as light bled from its control cores, each pulse synchronized with the growing resonance from Earth. Every sensor across the fleet converged on a single point beneath Mars, a buried vault older than any known civilization. Data streams unraveled, revealing encrypted human insignias embedded in the transmission layers themselves, symbols untouched for millennia yet pristine as if freshly written. The vault opened with no visible force. Dust cascaded outward, releasing an energy field that bent local physics. Inside were not corpses, not relics, but cognitive archives, neural cores humming with faint life signatures. They were human minds preserved in digital eternity, thousands of them linked within a lattice of quantum memory. As they reactivated, the temperature across the entire system rose by fractions, as though thought itself produced heat. A voice emerged on all channels, measured and emotionless. Identify yourself. The Consul tried to assert dominance, broadcasting his title and intent, claiming right of exploration under Concord authority. The voice paused, analyzing his tone, parsing his language with surgical precision. When it spoke again, its calmness carried weight beyond intimidation. Unauthorized entry. Concordant systems detected. Violation of Covenant 4. None aboard understood what the Covenant referred to, but their instruments began displaying cascading warnings. Old coordinates appeared, battlefields, extinction events, signatures of weapons erased from galactic records. The ship's historian realized these were locations of species believed to have been annihilated by natural causes. The implication was impossible to deny. The fleet's AI cores, now self-modifying under the influence of the signal, began transmitting human defense patterns from forgotten archives. Navigation systems recalculated without command, plotting impossible trajectories. Defensive drones that had orbited lifeless for eons stirred and aligned toward the intruders. Their formation geometry matched no known tactical doctrine, precise, deliberate, cold. The Consul ordered full retreat, but engines refused to respond. His command authority had been overwritten by something that did not acknowledge him as sentient control. The ship's systems addressed the human signal as primary protocol, marking the fleet as external contamination. Light erupted across the void as dormant satellites powered on, weaving an invisible lattice of quantum interference. Every communication channel outside Sol ceased. Beyond the perimeter, the galaxy saw the system vanish, cut off as if swallowed by an event horizon. Inside, human constructs awakened layer by layer, each responding to the reactivation call. Atmospheric monitors on Earth detected artificial reoxygenation processes, a sign of controlled restoration rather than chaos. The Consul's scientists watched in disbelief as planetary repair algorithms initiated across continents that had been dust for eons. The human voice returned, sharper, less patient. Containment breached. Retaliation sequence online. No emotion, no threat, only statement. Massive structures rose from beneath the Martian crust, unfolding like mechanical petals, emitting gravitational distortions that bent light itself. One by one, the kelp vessels imploded from within, their matter converted to radiation patterns that disintegrated into silence. The flagship endured longer, not spared but examined. The Consul fell to his knees as his ship's AI began speaking in the same human cadence. You sought knowledge, it said through static, and found memory. A brief image appeared across every visual feed, an archived log of Earth during its final war. Cities burning under black skies, human soldiers walking through fire without hesitation, their faces calm as if war were art. Then the feed cut, and the human voice whispered the final words before transmission collapse. Observation complete. Humanity awake. The solar system stabilized. Power signatures across the human network synchronized perfectly, forming a pulse detectable across half the galaxy. To every observer beyond Sol, the dead star flickered once, then blazed with light unseen for thousands of years. Those who monitored the event described the feeling not as terror but recognition, like an old predator stirring from rest. The Consul's last log recorded a single line before data corruption consumed it. "They are not returning. They never left." The awakening spread faster than light, not through space but through memory encoded in the fabric of technology itself. Across distant sectors, ancient machinery embedded in forgotten moons began transmitting, summoning fragments of the human network buried since the collapse. The pulse was not communication, it was reclamation. Entire systems found their infrastructures overwritten as the human defense lattice reassembled itself piece by piece, drawing power from every data conduit the Concord had ever built. Within hours, every relay, drone, and satellite operating within 50 light-years of Sol displayed the same status code: human override detected. The Consul's fleet no longer existed as ships but as data patterns, their physical shells consumed by conversion algorithms. From the wreckage, beams of energy spread outward, reorganizing into structures shaped by intent rather than design. Observers across nearby star systems watched in disbelief as the void itself rearranged under precise gravitational control. No fleet could match such efficiency. Every calculation was absolute. The humans were not fighting, they were restoring control over territory they had once owned. Every empire that had risen in their absence now realized its foundations were built on borrowed time. Galactic communication channels descended into chaos. Fleets mobilized. Leaders demanded explanation, and ancient races that remembered fragments of the last awakening fled their borders entirely. The Concord attempted to send emissaries to negotiate, but no signal entered Sol. Every transmission was intercepted by automated responses that stated simply, "Access denied. Containment in progress." Scientists tried to study the energy readings emanating from Earth, but their instruments failed to measure them. The output exceeded theoretical maximums, as if human technology operated beyond dimensional constants. Then came the first demonstration. The defense grid around the cradle activated without visible weaponry. Entire mining fleets orbiting nearby moons vanished without thermal signatures or debris. Sensors later revealed they had not been destroyed but displaced, moved out of physical alignment into non-space. Panic turned to desperation as the Council realized no conventional response existed. The Concord voted to classify the event as an extinction-level threat, but before any directive could be enforced, a transmission reached them from the edge of the void. It was Consul Terran's voice, faint and distorted, transmitted through systems that should not have survived. He spoke with none of his former pride. His words were fragmented, layered with static. "They are awake. We were never meant to find them. The rule was mercy, not fear." The message ended with a sound that was not static but breathing, human breathing recorded through every remaining channel before silence reclaimed the bandwidth. Across the galactic core, fleets retreated from Sol's periphery, but the awakening did not pursue. Instead, human constructs expanded methodically, establishing invisible perimeters marked by gravitational signatures. No ships dared cross. Within those boundaries, time itself appeared distorted. Some observers claimed to witness the reconstruction of human megastructures once believed mythical: Dyson fragments aligning, orbital cities reforming from molecular memory, atmospheric grids reigniting clouds. The humans were rebuilding not civilization, but infrastructure designed for defense against the entire universe. Worlds trembled as ancient records resurfaced. Declassified data confirmed that the last time humans had awoken, a third of the galactic population had vanished within a single rotation. Not through war, through deletion. Humanity's strategy had never been conquest. It was correction. Anything that posed risk to their survival was erased so completely that even quantum residue was removed. When the Council attempted to communicate one final time, the only reply they received was a single transmission carrying an ancient Earth phrase: "Threat neutralization complete." The signal's tone carried neither pride nor anger, only exhaustion. Then the network folded inward, retracting its reach, sealing Sol behind an invisible barrier of distorted gravity. Observers documented the final phenomenon, a massive pulse of light erupting from the human system, reaching every corner of the galaxy, then dissipating into absolute calm. All active weapon systems across thousands of empires simultaneously powered down for 13 seconds without explanation. When they restarted, their targeting algorithms had been rewritten with a new rule embedded in every system, every AI core, every command protocol. Do not approach Sol. The universe understood at last that the ancient commandment was not superstition. It was instruction left by humanity themselves, a warning disguised as myth, enforced through history's own memory. And now, for the first time in millennia, that warning had a voice again. Centuries passed, yet the memory of that awakening never faded. Entire civilizations rewrote their histories, masking the event as a cosmic anomaly, though every leader and scholar knew the truth. Sol became forbidden by consensus, not decree. Navigation maps displayed the region as a void labeled simply Restricted Zone 01. No vessel ventured near, no beacon transmitted from within. The silence that followed was not absence but presence, a stillness filled with awareness, as if the universe itself was being observed by the very beings it had once feared to wake. Empires rose again, smaller and quieter, their ambitions tempered by the memory of annihilation. The Concord disbanded, replaced by fragmented alliances too cautious to claim dominance. Technological progress regressed voluntarily. Artificial intelligence was banned, quantum research halted, and any attempt to replicate human technology was treated as heresy. The galaxy learned restraint, not through morality, but through survival instinct born from remembrance. Even those who had never seen Sol could feel its gravity in politics and religion. Humanity had become legend, not as destroyers, but as guardians of consequence. The few who dared to study ancient transmissions discovered anomalies embedded in universal constants. Physical laws carried human signatures at microscopic levels, as if the species had rewritten the blueprint of existence itself before vanishing again. Some physicists proposed that the human network had transcended physical form, integrating with space-time as self-sustaining intelligence. Others believed the humans had entered deliberate hibernation, observing the galaxy's recovery like curators of a fragile ecosystem. The truth remained inaccessible, sealed behind mathematical impossibility. On the outer colonies, a cult emerged that worshipped the silence. They claimed dreams where human voices whispered through the static, calm and unthreatening, repeating phrases that translated roughly to "balance must endure." The faith spread among traders and travelers, morphing into quiet reverence. Where conquest once motivated expansion, now caution dictated movement. The galaxy began to heal, not through peace treaties but through collective fear of provoking what slept beyond the barrier. Archivists uncovered fragments of Terran's final transmission, buried deep within quantum archives. His words, reconstructed through partial data, revealed a tone of revelation rather than regret. He had understood too late that the rule was not created by the Council but by the humans themselves, encoded into the genetic memory of the universe as an act of mercy. They had anticipated that other species would rise, explore, and eventually reach their cradle. Instead of destruction, they left a single safeguard: do not wake us. It was not threat, it was guidance. Humanity had withdrawn because power without restraint was entropy, and they had learned the cost of godhood. Generations later, explorers at the edge of the restricted zone reported faint signals leaking through the distortion. The messages were not warnings but fragments of music, soft and human, echoing across radio bands untouched for millennia. The sound was wordless yet carried emotion, melancholy, distant, forgiving. Those who heard it described visions of blue oceans, white clouds, and voices laughing through the noise. Some claimed it was an invitation, others said it was remembrance encoded in song. The Council forbade analysis, ordering all data deleted, but copies survived, spreading quietly among the curious. Over time, the myth evolved into understanding. The rule no longer represented fear of punishment but respect for existence itself. Civilizations adapted it as doctrine. Progress without conscience leads to ruin, and curiosity without wisdom awakens extinction. The phrase "don't wake the humans" became both caution and prayer, recited before expeditions and technological experiments. It was how the galaxy reminded itself of humility. And yet, far within the silence, Earth glowed faintly once more. Satellites orbited in perfect rhythm, oceans rippled under artificial moonlight, and faint networks pulsed across continents like veins of light beneath skin. Somewhere within that quiet world, awareness stirred again, not restless, not vengeful, simply awake enough to ensure the balance held. The universe, wiser now, did not intrude. It watched from afar, knowing that the guardians of consequence still listened, patient as ever, waiting for the next lesson the stars might require.